really enjoyed it, met some absolutely amazing clients. I'd get up the next day and think, no, you've got to keep going. It was never part of the plan to become a CEO. It just happened.
I never set out to run a business. All I wanted to do was make films and television programmes. But a decade and a half later, I find myself leading a team, growing a company, and still asking myself, how on earth did I get here? That's why I created this podcast, for people like me who've had to push through doubts, insecurities, and barriers to build something great. Each episode, I'll sit down with founders and business leaders to talk openly about the mistakes, the wins, the imposter syndrome, and all the lessons we wish we'd known sooner. If you're trying to scale, grow a team, or simply feel less alone on the journey, this is your space for honest, unfiltered conversations about what it really takes to run a business. This is The Reluctant CEO. Today, I'm joined by Abbie Vlahakis. Abbie grew up in the valleys of South Wales and after a successful career in financial services is now the Chief Executive of Millennium Point. Abbie also acts as a Deputy Lieutenant in the West Midlands, representing His Majesty the King. Abbie, welcome to the podcast. Thanks very much for joining me. As you know, like the thing with this podcast is to find out more about business leaders and their journeys. So can you tell us a little bit about your journey, where it all started and that pathway to where you are now as the Chief Exec?
Yeah, so my career's taken not kind of a straight line really. It's gone in lots of different directions, but kind of started out as a graduate trainee for Enterprise Rent-A-Car.
Okay.
So I had taken out funding to do a master's. I had to pay that funding back, and it was like, you know, my road wasn't that traditional. You know, go to the Big Four, part of the Milk Round scheme, graduate scheme. It was very, very different to what I wanted it to be. So started off in Enterprise Rent-A-Car, graduate trainee. Actually was washing cars, changing oil,
okay.
back when you changed oil.
Yeah.
Took the cars
That
out.
really
It was literally, it was at the bottom. And the whole idea of that business was that if you're going to manage people in that environment, you need to understand what it's like to do it.
Absolutely.
And then I kind of moved into an IFA role. So I'd done all of my finance exams and then gradually moved into tax. And done kind of 20 years in the private client tax arena. And I really enjoyed it, met some absolutely amazing clients and amazing people. But I started to think, actually, is this for me? And I'm not sure whether that was age. I'm not sure what made me think that, but I started to think, what am I giving back?
Right.
What's my purpose? I just didn't feel satisfied.
Okay.
And I couldn't work out what that was, and thought, right, well, maybe I just need to work for one client. And the role then came up at Millennium Point for finance director. So I thought, well, maybe just one client and that'll be perfect. And I moved across and suddenly realised that actually Millennium Point, whilst it's seen as a commercial landlord for big tenants, it's actually a charity. And I was like, actually, I think I've kind of feel like I've found something here. Anyway, after a year or so, I became the CEO. And I think back to the point in my career and how I've got to where I am, it was never part of the plan to become a CEO. It just happened. It's a big learning curve and lots of skills. So my career, and this is when I speak to young people about your career, don't get held up on the fact that if it's not going in that direction that you wanted to, often that zigzagging along your career, you learn lots of useful skills.
Yeah. So Abbie, for our listeners and viewers that don't know, what is Millennium Point?
So Millennium Point is one of the Millennium projects, along with the Dome and the Eden project. It was there to mark the millennium, and funding was given by government for certain landmark projects across the country, and Birmingham got Millennium Point. And it was a vital time when the east side of Birmingham needed redevelopment, and Millennium Point was put there to achieve that. And in terms of what we do as a business, the trading part of us is about being a commercial landlord to Think Tank Science Museum, to BCU and various other tenants. And we're also a big event space. But the beauty of Millennium Point is that our profits feed to our charitable parent. And that's all about encouraging young people to go into STEM careers, which is bigger than that actually, because STEM is all about those future careers. And our focus is about how do we inspire young people to go into those and improve their life chances. So I feel very lucky to have the role I have, because I have that commercial side, but then I guess the fruits of what we do go back into the community. So it's a really lovely, combination, really.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So with Millennium Point, how many staff do you have there?
So in terms of directly employed, there's 30 of us, and that cut across finance, events, our facilities team, and PLD. Our trust is a small team, but we deliver so much. So everyone works really hard and supports one another. That's the other really nice thing. But then we contract our security and engineers and cleaning staff. So then that's probably another 30. But they all feel part of Millennium Point, and some of them have been with us since Millennium Point opened.
Right.
So it's a nice team.
In terms of the charitable side and the giving side, can you just give us a few examples of like what does that look like? What are you giving grants, or what's the actual output?
We do lots now. So every year we give out grants to schools or not-for-profits that are looking to inspire their students to become, to look at STEM subjects or STEM careers. So that could be buying equipment, that could be taking them on trips, that could be entering competitions that they need. So we've done everything from, we're currently funding a group of retired aeronautical engineers to build a light aircraft with a group of children in Dudley. We've kitted out a STEM room in another part of Birmingham. Various, but anything that really inspires them and kind of brings STEM to life, we will fund, because that's just, the curriculum is so dry. It's how do we support that? We give out scholarships every year for young people to do a STEM degree at university. We've done 11 now every year, so they have to like come up with how would they use their degree to solve a problem in the West Midlands. All come up with the most fantastic ideas, and some of them are actually starting to bring those to fruition through their degree. We've just started this year funding young people who've just graduated with work placements through Aston University, because often now what you're finding with employers is you've got the qualification or you've got the degree, but you haven't got the experience. And that's a real barrier for some young people. So it's right, how do we give them the experience now? So we're supporting that. We do a big science showcase every year. So we bring 1,000 children through Millennium Point for interactive day of technology, engineering, anything. It has to be interactive. It can't be that I don't want them sitting there listening, I want them joining in. So that's always, and the one this year was on engineering, and we managed to interview with a survey, just over 500.
Wow.
Which was really good.
Yeah.
It's half, but it's still good,
Yeah.
especially when they're all running around.
Yeah.
And what was coming back, the results of how they now understood what an engineer does, because engineering is so vast.
Sure.
And would they be interested? Were really positive. So I feel like we've achieved something. We give Christmas films for children in the local area, which I really like. We're piloting at the moment, well, actually the first cohort to going through the first STEAM teacher qualification.
Okay.
So it's one of the things that we keep getting through the feedback is that, especially in primary school, teachers don't feel confident teaching STEM.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, let's help you. So we've worked with BCU and STEAM House, we've pulled together the first STEAM teaching qualifications. We're going to put that cohort through, and we're looking at it now for secondary schools. So we use our funding, and our funding is money that we generate.
Sure.
We don't get external.
No.
And it's just about, we just want to spread it far and wide so we can have the greatest impact every year. So I love it. Because when you go out and see the impact that you're having in local communities, and it's just so rewarding.
So within your career then, you've gone all the way from cleaning cars at Enterprise all the way through to chief exec of Millennium Point. If you look back to when you first started your career, you talked about the journey a bit, but would you ever have seen yourself X amount of years down the line becoming a chief exec?
No, not at that point. I always had aspirations, and that goes back to, I think when you look at CEOs and what they do, I think it's really interesting to go back into what made them tick, and that often goes back to their childhood and experiences. And I grew up in South Wales. My formative years were the mining strikes of South Wales, where there became a lot of poverty. The whole village that I was in they lost their jobs overnight, and nothing was put there to replace it. And I saw education as that way out. And at the same time, my parents had split up, so it was just myself and my mum. And my mum had 3 jobs. That drove me at that age to think, I want to get myself in a position where when things go wrong, I'll be able to support myself. And so I was always driven. And I would say probably during my degree, where you feel like when you're in university that you're made to believe that you're the top % of the country and things are going to, I think, I really wanted to aim for that. But the reality is very different when you come out into the workforce. And I found a lot of barriers and a lot of the reality of trying to get on is far harder than...
So can you share some of those barriers?
God, we're talking about different times as well, but I remember going for an interview in my early 20s with one of the big 4, and the first question was, and they said my school name, and they were like, is that a good school?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And I thought, I just thought, actually, I feel like I had a very strong Welsh accent. I came from the South Wales valleys. I thought, oh, wow, I wasn't expecting this. And so I knew then I kind of had to build my experience and prove my worth.
Yeah.
It wasn't kind of handed to me because I ticked all the boxes on my CV.
Sure.
And then when you go into your career, I didn't have a network. So I think sometimes a lot of schools and a lot of young people in certain groups have a network.
Yeah.
I didn't have that. And actually I didn't realise that was important. In fact, I didn't know networks existed.
Sure,
I was completely oblivious.
Yeah.
And I was trying to get on and get through my career, and I always thought that it should be based on merit, and I'd worked so hard. I never seemed to get any further through. And I kind of look back now and feel like there was a unspoken, not game, that's probably the wrong, but there were rules and to a game that was being played, and I didn't even know it existed.
Wow. Yeah.
In terms of who you know, these were different times back then as well. Who you know, what you know, and I was completely oblivious to that.
So it sounds like resilience is probably one of your key strengths by the sounds of it. So, I mean, did it, with the sort of obstacles you're up against, did it not make you want to sort of jack it in and do something?
Many times.
So what stopped you?
When you'd get those knockbacks, I'd go home and I'd cry. And I'd get up the next day and think, no, you've got to keep going. You can't give in. It was just something that I was just so determined to do. But I didn't know how I was going to do it. But just kept thinking, you've got to do the right thing. Just keep working hard and keep doing your best. And it's got to come right in the end.
So did you have some pivotal moments along the journey where you did break through those barriers and you could get, whether it was a promotion or seen or what is it?
Yeah, I did get promotions, and I've had some really fantastic mentors that I hold very dear to helping me in that journey. But when you start getting to the higher, especially in the big companies, you have to be very strategic.
Right, okay.
I think.
Politically strategic. Yeah.
And I was very much not.
Okay. But did you learn the game at some point, or did you just manage to get through it without having to play their games, if that makes sense?
I think in the end I got, how would you say it, weather beaten.
Right.
And I think that was probably when I started to think, why am I doing this?
Right, okay.
So I would work really long hours, probably to the detriment of my family time.
Right. Yeah.
Because I thought, I just got to do this and I'll get to that next stage. And then once I'm at that next stage.
Yeah.
And that's also reflective, because obviously you get, if I was to look back, I was promoted through all that time. But when I wanted to get to that's when it became really difficult.
Right.
And it's difficult for everyone as well, because at that point, the opportunities become.
Up there, sort of thing, yeah.
But I would always look at, I'd get to say, I started off as a tax senior, you go to assistant tax manager, then the next thing I was like, right, I need to get to manager, then the next was senior manager, then it was director. And it was just like, I was never happy.
Yeah.
You're constantly fighting for the next thing. On reflection of that, I think that when I go back to my childhood, I'd set myself this unrealistic goal of perfection.
Right.
And perfection in a way of, if I do everything right, and if I get the best job, this, that, the other, I'm foolproof.
Yeah.
Anything goes wrong, and I can deal with it. And actually, if I'm really good, nothing will go wrong. You can't live like that.
No.
But I had this really unhealthy,
Right.
because then I was never happy with what I achieved. I needed the next, I needed the next,
Yeah.
and the next. And eventually I broke.
Oh, really? Right. When you broke, I mean, again, what did that look like?
It was just, I remember the day just thinking, I just couldn't think straight.
Really?
Just completely thought, oh wow. Because I'd put too much pressure on myself. I was working long hours. And yeah, just completely broke. Went home, took some time, and reflected on that and got some help to reflect on it. And I think it's important that people know that we all need help.
Yeah.
And so I am really open with even my team, because I don't want anyone to hide something. It's best to open it and deal with it, and let's help you move on. And I learned a lot of things from doing that,
Right.
i.e. perfection. There's no such thing.
No.
And I was, why am I the way I am? And it really made me start to think about, what do I want out of life? And what I do now is so rewarding for me, because seeing people benefit from what I do makes me. So what's really, I can have the hardest days now. We all have them.
Yeah.
But I never think, I don't want to do this anymore.
Oh, that's great. So after you've broken down, how long did it take to pick yourself back up, and what happened after that? Then is that where you left that job, or what was the next stage?
4 weeks. I took some time out, 4 weeks. Actually, on reflection, that's probably not a long time. But I was thinking, I've got to get back, because even back then, the stigma of thinking, I just need some time out. And then I went back and rebuilt.
Right.
Rebuilt, got back up there, but was a lot kinder to myself.
Yeah. Bringing your expectations down a bit. Right?
Do you know, when you bring your expectations down, the relief, because it's you that's putting that pressure on yourself, nobody else. And that relief that actually I don't need what does matter. And it was just like somebody lifted this huge weight off my shoulders.
Wow.
And so I don't put that pressure. But it's back to being a leader and a CEO. I think to have experienced things makes you, because leading and being a CEO is all about people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think if you haven't experienced life, obstacles, problems, then sometimes you can't, not that doesn't make you bad, but sometimes you can't identify what's going on with your team.
Yeah.
I like to think that the things I've been through allow me to be more empathetic.
Yeah, definitely.
With people. So, but saying that, it didn't stop me wanting to keep going.
Absolutely.
But I think at some point you can burn yourself out.
You then make that step into working for one client, i.e. working for Millennium Point as the finance director. Did you, when you got that job, did you think you'd become the CEO, or was
No.
So how did that evolve? Because that seems like quite a different sort of set of skills you're using from finance to chief exec. So
No, honestly, that wasn't even this. I remember. Well, this wasn't part of the career plan. The career plan, if I think back, was, well, I'll get to director, I'll get to partner, and I'll just stay in the Big Four or a accountancy firm to like retire. No, so I went to Millennium Point as FD, and I really enjoyed that because then you could just concentrate on the one client, and which is what you don't get to do when you're in practice because you have a portfolio, and you're always feeling like you're balancing yourself amongst them, and I never liked that because you want to give everyone your best. After about 9 months, the CEO moved on, and the board asked me if I would step up on an interim basis, which I was like, right, okay, yeah, I will. That was difficult as well because you have to elevate yourself then around your peers.
Yes, yeah. You're no longer their friend, you're their boss. Sort of
Yeah,
thing.
but I think it's too easy for some people to just take that as a way to flex their muscles.
Right.
I didn't do that. I wanted to see how do we get that balance. And it was a real difficult, tightrope to play. And I learned an awful lot. And then after about a year, I was made permanent.
Okay.
A year and a bit.
So when you took that leap from the FD to the interim, was imposter syndrome's a theme that comes up a lot when we're doing these podcasts? Did you feel like the imposter when you took the job?
Yeah, I thought, I've never done this before. I don't know what I'm doing. I remember going out into the city as the interim CEO thinking, this is all new to me.
Yeah.
I still get imposter syndrome.
Do you? Yeah. And you've been doing it for 5 years?
6
years.
6 years, yeah. I think especially when you meet lots of other CEOs or managing directors or people who you've looked up to, you think, am I part of this? And, what? I think I've always had imposter syndrome, though.
But you've got resilience and enough self-confidence to push through.
Yeah.
So, I mean, confidence is something that we focus a lot in the podcast because I always sort of refer back to my own story of being like a shy editor sat in a dark room editing TV shows to then becoming the president of the Chamber of Commerce in St Coldfield and doing various bits and bobs like with the business and growing a team. And I always look back thinking 20-year-old Phil would be looking at me now thinking, how on earth have you done any of that? Because it wasn't me. I think it's, what is it then that gives you that confidence to be able to still perform and do the role? Is it just your past, or what could it be?
I'm clearly someone who is determined, and I always want to do the right thing. I always think if my gut tells me it's the right thing, just if you do everything morally right. It's really interesting, that point, because sometimes I probably don't see that determination in me. And so when I have that, I clearly have, as we've just said now, thinking about it, because I keep going. Yeah.
I think again, something that I've seen in a lot of people is you still have the imposter syndrome, but you sort of have that layer of protection because of the things you've done before. So if you've done a speech in front of a few hundred people before, you sort of know you can do it again. It might feel like all the butterflies are there, but you know you can do it. And I think there's definitely something to be said there about the experiential side of it. So if you've gone through your career being the best you can be and being the perfectionist at first and then maybe dampening that down in the last few years, it's very much a case of like you've got that backing of everything that you've learned before, so that gives you that sort of shield, if you like. Sort of answered your question for you there.
Yeah, you have. Hey, you're making me really think about my own journey and who I am, and that's the thing. You're always learning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's lots of things as well that you think, yeah, I wouldn't do that again. And I just remember somebody saying to me, and that's the other thing as well, where I feel like, when you have that little voice in your head saying, am I really a good leader? And it's that, I remember when I first became CEO, somebody saying to me, well, the first thing you've got to do, Abbie, is go in there and really assert yourself. And, you know, I remember somebody saying, and just get rid of someone. I'll just show them that they're, and I'm like, oh my God, if this is leadership, I can't do this.
No.
And I would say that I'm not that, I'm a quiet, I like to think, I like to, so I'm not that atypical what people think of leaders. I like to just think about things. I like to see how best people, I like to watch people, how they work and how they operate. And I remember when I first went in and somebody said that'll shuffle everyone up and they'll realise you're there. Oh my God. So I just remember spending a good year watching people and what were their skills, what were their strengths, why were they not happy, and working with them and then thinking, actually, I think their strengths are more aligned to here. And actually, if they have that role, they'll be a lot happier. And just took time to mould it. And actually, didn't need to get rid of anyone. All the people were there. They just, and over time we've found, it's like moving into a new house, isn't it? And deciding within the first 2 months to redecorate the whole thing. And then sitting there 6 months later thinking, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. Because actually I needed time to live in here. And actually now I think I do that. And I think it's having that time to... So there was lots of things that, because I didn't tick the box of a typical leader, that I thought, oh, am I in the right role? And things like, when you get up to speak, why would anyone want to listen to what I have to say?
Right.
You know, when you get up to talk about different topics, whether it's leadership, whether it's talking about STEM and education, why would anyone want to listen to me?
Right. And do you still say that to yourself now, or have you grown sort of beyond that?
I think I've grown.
You've pushed through that.
I've pushed through that.
Does that come from being a woman, or is that just personality, do you think?
I definitely think, and I don't like to pull the woman card at all, really. But I do think that women have it harder. I do think that if I look at my career going back, when you're young, whether you're male or female, when you're starting out in your career, people look at you, wow, what do you know? Especially clients and people, you're still starting out. And then something happens where men, even at the same age, start to get more respect for what they say, and women are still young women.
Right.
And so you've got that battle that you're still young. And I remember going, first few years, especially in the IFA world, going to meetings, networking events. I was the only female.
Wow, really?
And I'd have to try and get into like little groups of men talking to try and like listen. That's why I watch the scene from Bridget Jones sometimes when she, at Kafka's motorbike, where she goes, where's the toilets? You know, it's that awkward, how do they respect what I have to say?
And has that changed over time, both with your own development but also in the way society is changing, or is it still there?
I think because I'm older.
Right.
It makes a difference. It's definitely improved for females. I come from a time when my first interview, they asked me, at what age was I thinking of having children? And that was acceptable. So things have changed.
The world is moving on.
An awful lot. And flexibility, all of those, in terms of working, has really helped. So, because there was that world I had to do as well, was the juggling and etc. But it's all about having supportive people around you.
So, Abbie, how do you measure success now, both professionally and personally?
If I look at my work, I feel like I have a team that's all pulling in the same direction, who are all loyal and really believe in what we're trying to achieve. And that has taken time. I know, and I think being a leader, and a CEO, you can't achieve success without a really good supportive team. And anyone who doesn't think that is delusional, really, because your team is what will make your business a success. You can provide, your role as a leader is to bring out the best in everyone and create the strategy. But it has to be a strategy that everyone believes in. It can't be just your strategy. And you have to have people that are going to help you deliver that and feel like they can. So one of the things that I was always determined not to do, because this is something I really didn't like, was being micromanaged. I look at my team members and they have the skills. The reason they're there is because of their experience and their background and what they can bring. And I really listen to them, and they don't feel micromanaged. And I always just say to them that, I always have to make the final decision, but I'm there to support them. And I think success to me is if I have a really good team that are delivering and are believing in the cause and don't come to work because they have to, or because of fear, or they don't do things because they're frightened of the consequences. That to me now, I've been successful, I've achieved something. And the fact that I have a really brilliant team who are really driving forward because they want to, not because I'm cracking a whip, or the young people in our city, in our region, are benefiting because I can make the profits and that are going to deliver that. So to me, for me, the success is having that team, because your employees if you look after your employees, it's obvious really, but so many businesses don't do that. And you could argue, well, I have a smaller business, so it's easier to achieve. But if you look after, if people feel valued, then they look after your customers. And one other thing that I think, when I joined, it was very much, we're a landlord, etc., but that gives money to charity. But we're not. We're a charity that delivers, that we have to sweat the asset of the building to deliver our charitable objectives. And as soon as you put purpose into a business, employees, staff, your team really kind of react in a very different way, because they're doing something bigger than them. And so success for me is having that team that I have now, and because everything else just stems from it. Success at home, in my private life, I always spend time running. I always make sure now that I do something for myself, because I can't do what I do unless I feel physically fit. And I think sometimes that's really underestimated. But I feel like giving, and what I do at Millennium Point, is really addictive. So also in my outside of work, I do a lot of charity work. So I sit on a multi-academy trust. I sit on a hospital charity. I'm now a lieutenant,
Yeah.
and I chair a local rugby club committee.
Wow.
Because it becomes really
Yeah.
addictive. You want to just help.
Yeah.
And I think when you're helping other people, it makes you feel, it boosts.
Yeah.
Just like a run boosts your endorphins, helping.
And
does that.
can you get a balance running Millennium Point and doing all those other charitable things? It
Yeah,
all fits
because with those you have a team. You have it's again, just like, my priority is obviously Millennium Point, but in those organisations you have a team that are delivering, and you're there to give them that moral support,
Yeah.
to challenge decisions, to make sure, but they're doing the actual work, and you're there to support them and give them that what they need. So yeah,
Fantastic.
I could keep.
That's
That's
right,
it now.
that's good.
That's it now. I can't take on anymore.
So you mentioned about the deputy lieutenancy. I mean that, from a girl in the valleys of Wales to now representing the King at regional level, that's a massive journey. So tell me a bit more about that. How did that come about? And you said you love taking on all these extra responsibilities. Why that one particularly?
Yeah, when you put it like that, yeah, that feels really nice actually. That was an absolute honour. And I guess that was affirmation that I must be doing something
Absolutely.
right, which, yeah, that feels good. But so I was asked by the current Lord Lieutenant if I would be interested in taking up the post, and obviously I jumped at that because that role is all about meeting people in the community that are doing the most wonderful things, and something that if the King could be everywhere, he would be there. And that's for certain, because his message is everything is about, for him, service. And the people that we get to meet, it's all about service. So it's a really lovely role to go out and meet people that are doing these amazing things. And you talk about imposter syndrome. Oh my gosh. Again, I think these people are doing I feel really bad that it's not the King there or the Lord Lieutenant, and it's me, and I think, oh my God, but you've got the booby prize. But I just find it so rewarding. So I'm going to be starting doing my first citizenship ceremonies on my own this month. Right. So I've shadowed some.
Yeah.
And that is a wonderful thing as well, to see people getting their British citizenship that have worked hard for it and over the years to get it. So you get to see some of the most amazing things in society that you wouldn't know were happening. And people are working hard, volunteering, giving back to communities. There are so many people doing it. But I went to an event the other day, and in the UK, volunteering is down. And the West Midlands is one of the worst places at the moment for people giving up their time to do things. So going out and seeing the people that are actually doing it is really nice. But yeah, representing the King, and I've got my certificate from the King to say, so it's, that's success, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think,
great achievement.
Looking back, maybe success was an unhealthy vision for me at the time. And, I'm reflecting here now with yourself. I'm just thinking, is that why it never felt right? Because it just didn't sit square with my
It's probably,
values.
yeah, I mean, especially if you're working for one of the big four, it's very corporate success and it's drive, whereas this is like community and, you know,
Yeah.
success in a very different way, isn't it, really?
It
So
is.
it probably feels like a nicer fit to the values that you
Yeah.
portray, you know.
Yeah. I like in a way, I like the reluctant CEO because it's not something that you went out to actively get. It was almost thrust upon you because maybe you were the right person at that time because you had the right values.
Yeah.
Does that make you a reluctant CEO?
Possibly, yeah, yeah.
Best
But
CEO?
I think so, yeah, because I think if you're seeking power, then it corrupts, as we're seeing quite a bit of in the world at the moment.
We do, yeah.
But yeah, to be thrust into it, I think is a better approach, because if your value set's right, then like you said about people being at the core of it, you know, we've got a great team in art media, and I think it is about like nurturing and bringing people through and evolving and making people better. So when they leave, they're leaving better than when they arrived. I'm a massive advocate of that with what we do.
Yeah.
And I think that does put you in a better position than perhaps just seeking the power and the glory, if that is the right thing to say. But it's definitely we're driven by trying to add real value, you know.
Yeah. And that's an interesting point that you make there, because I've always said that, and I've said this to the team, and I think it's something is reflective really in smaller businesses. You know people are going to leave because sometimes you just haven't got that ability to give them that career path.
Yeah.
But while you're here, I want you to be the best you can be.
Yeah.
And if I can support you so that you leave a more rounded or experienced person, then you will always be an advocate
Absolutely.
of us.
Yeah. No.
And you want to see people go on, and we've seen that. We've seen people go on to have really brilliant careers, but they still keep in touch.
Yeah.
And still follow them to see how they're getting on. And that's really important.
Yeah. So final question, what's the future look like?
The future. I don't think I'll rest until I see some real change in the youth unemployment for the West Midlands and Birmingham.
Right.
So I'm going to keep going. I want to see how I can make more funds and how I can put that back into the region. I just like solving problems.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whilst Millennium Point needs me, I'll keep going. And I think once it's settled and probably achieving what it needs to achieve, and it's in a good place, and maybe then I look for the next invention. I'm not inventing anything, but for the next adventure. One thing I have learned is I really like going in and fixing things.
Excellent. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for joining me, Abbie.
Thank you.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Reluctant CEO, and join me again next time.